Today, the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis operates as a restaurant and inn. It sits in the shadow of Interstate 55, an imposing brick structure that draws a constant stream of tourists eager to step inside one of the most famous locations in American paranormal lore. Guests check in specifically for the experiences cataloged in decades of travel logs. They report phantom footsteps, a piano playing in the dark, the scent of vintage cologne, and an overwhelming feeling of dread that lingers in the guest suites. But to understand why this building generates such an intense psychological pull, we have to look to the archives rather than the ghost hunters. The mansion's documented history is as dark as its folklore, centering on the rapid internal collapse of the beer dynasty that built it. The Lemp Empire began entirely underground, in the vast limestone cave systems running beneath the streets of St. Louis. This cross-section schematic illustrates how Adam Lemp and his son, William Sr., utilized these spaces. Before commercial refrigeration, the caves provided the consistent, cool temperatures necessary to age German-style lager. This natural advantage allowed the Lemps to mass-produce beer on a scale that few of their competitors could match. By the time the next generation took control, the purpose of these tunnels changed. William's son, Billy Lemp Jr., converted the industrial storage areas into a private playground. He installed a theater, a bowling alley, and a massive swimming pool heated by water piped directly from the family brewery. These subterranean additions marked a shift in the Lemp family's priorities. The tunnels that once housed the inventory were now used to hide private indulgences, physically separating their lifestyle from the society above. Upstairs, in the patriarch's bedroom, the family's public success met its private breaking point. William Lemp Sr. had built one of the largest brewing empires in the country, yet he was devastated by the sudden deaths of his favored son and his close friend, Frederick Pabst. On the morning of February 13, 1904, William Sr. told a servant he was unwell and retired to this room. Once inside, he retrieved a revolver from a drawer and took his own life. Modern visitors frequently report a suffocating, heavy atmosphere, specifically inside this suite, a room where the patriarch of the family chose to end his life at the height of his financial power. This event cracked the foundation of the family dynasty. It proved that their millions could not insulate the household from profound internal tragedy. In Billy Jr.'s office and the adjoining lavender suite, the family's public image continued to erode. Billy's behavior became notoriously erratic. He was known to point loaded weapons at domestic staff, and his marriage ended in a scandal-filled divorce that was covered extensively by the local press. Prohibition arrived as the final blow to the business. The Lemps were forced to liquidate the brewery, selling an empire once valued at $7 million for a mere $500,000. These photos capture the physical erasure of the family's work, as staff spent days pouring the last of the Lemp inventory into the sewer. On December 29, 1922, Billy Jr. walked into his mansion office, unbuttoned his coat and vest, and shot himself in the heart. Today, those who seek the paranormal identify a dastardly presence in the house that they attribute to Billy. He is the spirit blamed for tossing glassware in the bar and frightening guests who wander near his former office. Billy's death within these walls finalized the collapse of both the family's wealth and their standing in St. Louis society. The tragedy reached the upper floors of the house as well. Near the servant stairs, local legends persist of Zeke, an alleged illegitimate son of Billy's, who was hidden away from society and who supposedly died after falling down these narrow steps. By the late 1940s, the mansion was inhabited by Charles Lemp. He lived as a germophobic recluse, wandering the empty halls in white gloves, accompanied only by his dog. On May 10, 1949, Charles took his dog to the basement and shot it. He then returned to his bed and shot himself in the head, leaving behind detailed instructions for the disposal of his remains. Charles was the final Lemp to live in the mansion. His death extinguished the family's presence in the building, leaving behind nothing but the physical architecture and the record of their trauma. This architectural blueprint visualizes the sheer density of the horror that occurred here. Within this single structure, we find the wreckage of a lost industrial empire and 3 direct, violent suicides. Ghost stories provide a framework to process a concentrated amount of historical grief. We use the language of hauntings to make sense of tragedies that are otherwise too overwhelming to examine. The The Lemp Mansion remains a physical monument to the American dream in reverse. Whether or not one believes in wandering spirits, the structure is saturated by the documented history of a family that reached the pinnacle of success, only to